VTLM and GTD classes remain incredibly close. Today's finale will decide who comes away with a crown, and of the four with a mathematical shot, only one driver has a championship title under their belt. Will that experience make the difference? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch the season finale of the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth today is Adam Lindgren and Bill Su Zong. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Cracker Zambros, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beer. It has become a tradition over time that Spa hosts the season finale for the ASC. While the drivers know it well and all the dangers that it holds, let's head over to our track guide so our viewers can get familiar. Welcome to Spa-Francorchamps. Less than an hour's drive east from the German border, this Belgian track has come to define racing for many different eras in the sport. It's no wonder it continues to entrance drivers when you look at the stats. The 7 kilometers over the course of a lap includes more than 330 feet in elevation change as it weaves its way through the Ardennes forest. Packed into this is 19 turns, some of which are considered among the most famous in the world of racing. Corners like La Source and Blanchemont have been on the lips of drivers for decades. But by far the most notorious is Eau Rouge and Rétillon. Typically referred to in name by just the first section, it dips low and swings left, then compresses and climbs to the right up a massive hill. The sequence ends with a completely blind crest that sweeps to the left and leads onto the incredibly long Kemmel Straight. The bravery required to be fast through there will pay off towards one of the most popular passing spots at Lacombe. Eau Rouge is exemplary of the rest of the circuit though. Most of the turns are incredibly fast and many include much of that signature elevation change. As jaw-dropping as the track is, you have to remember that this is the modern truncated layout. The old one, raced until 1979, was 14 kilometers in length, yet carried an average speed of 150 miles per hour. Present-day safety measures do cut down on the danger, but even in recent history, the circuit has proven deadly. It's clear why this track continues to be revered and respected by racers the world round. Well, Adam, they've cleared out all the cars that were taking part in the 24 Hours of Spa. They've refreshed the track, and here we are for the season finale for what is honestly one of the more popular tracks here on the service.
Yeah, it definitely is. And for those of you in our audience, please do raise a virtual hand if you completed in the Spa 24-hour race this weekend. But for those of you who are unfamiliar with this course and with multi-class here at Spa, this 7-kilometer or 4.35-mile 19-turn behemoth of a course features the largest elevation gain on the Autobahn calendar this year, with 102 meters or 335 feet of elevation from Eau Rouge up to Rivage, with the rest of the circuit winding its way back down to the start-finish line. This circuit is long enough to have a different weather at each end of the track, so expect to see each sector have its own microclimate throughout the race. Every class will feel fairly comfortable here, with the GT3s being the most out of sorts on the descending second sector of the track, especially through Pouhon, as the relative lack of downforce and hard braking will threaten to spin the car around on turn-in. Multi-class-wise, you may think this is an easy course, but you'd be surprised. The racing line switches from right to left many times, and if the faster classes catch the slower classes through the second sector, it will definitely hold them up and add to their lap time. Combine that with 3 of the 4 points championships still up for grabs and their endurance format of 90 minutes, and things are about to get spicy, Joe.
Yeah, there's a reason they choose this one for the finale. It tends to be pretty popular with drivers as well in this series specifically. Now, let's go over the championship situation for you. And I guess I get the easy one here as we start with the prototypes. And Billy Smith has clinched it, as I mentioned. Jason Girard cannot overtake him in the points. That said, Girard and Wolf still very close, along with McGarvey and Carbonneau, not that far behind from them as well. Basically, second to fifth could all swap around between them before all is said and done. So we'll have to keep an eye on all those drivers. And Adam, what about the GTEs? We've been going over the iterations before the race. Hopefully you've got it sussed out by now.
Yeah, things are a little bit more complicated for the GTEs. Bradley Haley right now currently leads over Jason DeVries by 5 points. Kevin Binkley is too far back to contest for the championship. Now here's the scenarios. Bradley Haley needed to finish higher than 5th in order to win this, but he's not here today. He's on a vacation, which means Jason DeVries must actually finish higher than 5th today if he's going to win the championship. He did not take pole. That was David Williams. We'll talk about that later. So look for Jason to finish above 5th, and he should clinch the championship. As far as 3rd position is concerned, Mike Young is probably just a little bit too far away from Kevin Binkley to clinch it with the small field we have today. And then Daniel Grouty down there in 5th position, 87 points back, is going to be fine there in 5th right now.
And then it's even closer for you, Bill, down in the GTDs, and you have both drivers here.
Indeed, we do. Now, it gets a bit confusing if we drift off and row our boats into the tributaries, but if we stay in the deepest part of the river, I can keep this pretty simple. You can see the points there, how close they are between Lindsay and Santana. Both drivers are here. Let's keep it simple. 7th or higher should clinch it for Lindsay. So that's what his goal is. And with the small turnout in the GTDs here, I think we only have 11 drivers. Drop points aren't going to play into an effect. And Lindsay basically only has to beat 4 of the guys. So again, another nice battle between those two guys. Let's not forget a great season from Eric and Tilly. Sheldon Rosenbaum sitting down there in 4th, and then making the overlay, Tim McLeish. Joe?
And then we have the teams championship. I'm not going to try and go over the iterations of this because it depends on each class of car scoring for their team. So obviously that gets complicated. But up at the top, Automobile No Disassembly honestly has it pretty much wrapped up. In fact, I don't believe they can mathematically be overtaken at 119 behind. We'll double check on that. Lap Rats Racing tried their best to run them down with a few great drivers in there. Lindsay being one of our championship contenders, of course, but it just wasn't enough. SRN Orange, SRN Gray, and Autobahn West round out your top 5. Really, the closest to one another right now are 3rd and 4th on that list. Adam, we have viewers that may not have watched this series before. Why don't you run down the race details and familiarize them?
Well, if you haven't watched, this is a fantastic series to take a look at when it comes to GTE sprints and endurance races. This is the final round for these guys, 14 to 14 here. They're running 3 classes, the prototypes, which they're running the HPD, the Honda HPD, and they have GTLMs, where they're running a Porsche, a Ford, a Ferrari, and the BMW. And then we have the GTD classes, which this year we're running the Mercedes and the frankly underrepresented Audi R8. They are running an open setup today, and they also do not have any spare cars, so they have to take their lumps when they can. They're running 67% fuel around here, which means we should see 2 stops from all the classes. Bill will talk a little bit more about that in the future. And they have an incident cap around here of 36 incidents, and so that's going to be actually pretty hard for them to make around Spa, because you can pick up incidents a lot around here.
You really can. This is kind of a nightmare for drivers on iRacing, with the off tracks really racking up easily, especially if you're pushing. One thing we want to push to you is if you're looking to take advantage of GSRC's over 1 million global monthly impressions, from official series sponsorships to commercial placements, we have advertising options customizable to suit your company's needs. Follow the link in the description to learn more. Right now, we are qualifying for our prototype class, and John Ulmer currently holds the provisional pole, and that is over Billy Smith right now. Billy Smith has been fast at the end of this season, taking multiple wins, and it is a scant half a tenth between Ulmer and Smith right now, so not much considering the length of a lap around here.
Yeah, definitely. And with John Ulmer's issues he's had this season, he just hasn't been super consistent with on in-race pace. Billy Smith has a really good opportunity this race to be able to possibly overtake John Ulmer there and wants to take yet another win. You see Shane Hunter, who has yet to put in a time. This is a track that's fairly difficult for all of these drivers. And speaking of difficult, we do want to talk about the weather during qualifying. It has been fairly consistent throughout qualifying, about around 90 to 95 degrees. This is our highest track temp we've seen all session. And they also have a strong southwest wind. That's a headwind going up through Eau Rouge and Raidillon. And so this should be fine for them going up that sector, but it's when they go into the downhill into Pouan where things can get really complicated, because with the tailwind with these HPDs, they can actually lose the back end around there as well.
Talked about Ulmer's inconsistency. One could argue that his inconsistency did make him consistent, but that's just from somebody who's watched this for a long time.
They're getting philosophical about it.
Yeah.
As we watch Robert Kanchan, who currently sits in 5th, actually tow along John Ulmer with a little bit of a slipstream. I wonder if that will affect the qualifying a little bit. These cars have a bit of a wake through this portion where it's twistier, but then this is where they start to really tow each other along. The speeds pick up, heading up towards Blanchemont and the bus stop. Let's see if it works out for Ulmer or not, if he can go faster than the 2:05.2.
Yeah, Robert is about 7/10 down off of John Ulmer's time, so Kanchan is probably holding up Ulmer right here. Ooh, and now he slides through the final chicane. That's definitely going to hold up Ulmer on exit, so Ulmer's going to try and power through it, but he's hoping that Kanchan's going to give him the spot and pull over here.
And it worked, a 2:04.9. Ulmer is now 3/10 ahead of Billy Smith, and Smith is just coming up to finish the lap soon. This is Mike Major that we see on screen, apparently ditching his lap in spectacular fashion there at the bus stop. Now to the 9:01. There he is on screen. 3/10 to make up. It's a lot more than the 0.5 from before. He's only got one time on the board, and his second one is not quicker, unfortunately.
Yeah, so it looks like I was wrong that John Ulmer's draft did end up working there right in behind Robert Kanchan. So Billy Smith losing a little bit of time on that last lap. He was 2/10 off of his previous time. And track temperature is decreasing now that we've gotten a little bit of sporadic cloud cover. We see Shane Hunter coming across the line now. He's able to improve by about 6/10 on his time as long as that sticks. And it looks like it will. So Shane Hunter goes up to 5th position in front of Robert Kanchan.
Just to give you an idea of the size of this track, with only 6 cars out on track, and make that 7 now. No, it is only 6 of them, as Mike Major's just coming back out. The next car to cross the line, Ulmer, we're riding on board with him. He's just coming through Pouhon now. That's barely halfway through this thing. So now swings it through Fanyes. So give us a good idea just how hard it is to handle these high downforce machines. Not quite to the level of Formula One cars if you're used to watching them race here, but certainly comparable in terms of lightness and how well they stick to the track.
Yeah, the Formula One cars are boasting a lot more power than these HPDs in a much smaller chassis frame. Their wheelbase is about the same as these machines, but these machines are actually a little bit harder to control over the high downforce portions because their entire chassis is the wing instead of having wings sticking out of the monocoque of that machine. So Ulmer coming around for his next lap. Let's see whether this is faster or slower now that he doesn't have the draft.
Comes across the line. It's faster.
Wow.
Maybe he was being held up. It's 0.5, half a second now to Billy Smith. And Smith is going to be the next one to the line, I believe. There's Luke Carbonneau, who also just recently came across. Now we're on board with Billy, looking over his shoulder. Botches the last corner. Big time.
He's going to have one more chance at a lap here. These laps are around 2 minutes and 5 seconds, so he's going to cross the line with 2 minutes to go in qualifying, so he will be able to make it back around to the line before, right after qualifying is ended. He should get there about 5 to 6 seconds after qualifying is over.
Shane Hunter had a big off track there through Blanchemont, so this one's not going to count for him. That will definitely disqualify his lap time. Next up is going to be Mike Major in the number 2 machine. He was awful close to the edge out of Blanchemont. Let's see if his is going to count here. His quickest is a 2:07.4. Takes a wide berth around that second apex, off the corner, down to the line. Yep, that one gets null and void. So he'll have to get one more shot himself.
Yeah, all these drivers looking like they're setting up for the high downforce, high speed portions of this track. Getting through the bus stop is really, really challenging for these HPDs, and we're going to see that all race long, especially when they battle with each other. Kevin O'Keefe having not a great lap. He actually had an off coming down Pouhon before this as well, so he might be able to make it back to start another lap. But we're going to jump on board with Luke Carbonneau, who just took 3rd over Kevin O'Keefe on his last lap and is now trying to improve upon that time.
Yeah, if that was during the race, then it would look pretty spectacular. Kevin, we would say it's a great save, but unfortunately all it did was lose him time and discount the lap. As we watch Carbonneau, let's see how he does here through Blanchemont. Nice and tidy, not pushing the limits of the track too much, so it was definitely within the bounds. Then he breaks down into the bus stop chicane. It's the last bit of braking on the whole lap as the timing line comes up just here at that checkered line, and it's going to be a 2:05.2. That is very fast. That's up to second place.
Beats out Billy Smith, who just now is coming through the last couple of corners. He's going to be heading straight towards that bus stop chicane as well himself. Let's see whether I can get it woed down this time. He does. He clips that curve just a little bit. He knocked out the rear end just a little bit around that first curve, which means he did not get a great exit off of the second one. Let's see whether or not he can get across the line in time. He crosses the line, and it is going to be pole for him. Billy Smith jumps up to pole.
Wow. So in the dying moments, he pulls one out of the hat. Next is going to be Shane Hunter. He's sitting in fifth with a 2:06.3. In fact, he's going to take it into pit lane. He's not happy with how that lap is going. Mike Major down last of the drivers who have set a time here. 7th in class as he comes up for the last few apexes. He's going to be followed across by Cancian very quickly. Let's see what he's got. It's a 2:06.9. That's faster, but it looks like he'll stay in 7th.
All right, and unfortunately, Kevin O'Keefe abandoned his final lap, so that will do us. Billy Smith with such a quick lap on the final lap of his qualifying, able to pass John Ulmer. Fantastic work.
That's going to set our grid for today. Not the biggest of grids, but still lots of talent here. So let's start with our prototypes. And we've got Billy Smith up there on the pole with John Ulmer starting next to him in second. Again, no championship on the line here for this class. Luke Carbonneau will be starting P3 with Kevin O'Keefe in the 4th position. Shane Hunter will be starting P5. Outside of row 3 is Robert Cancian. Last of the 7 that have showed up today is Mike Major.
David A. Williams took the pole over Jason DeVries by 0.5 tenth on his qualifying lap. Jason in second, starting off in second position, with Carter Kundinger starting off in third. His battle with Leif Peterson looks like it's going to continue into this race from last week. Leif starting off in 4th position with Olivier Turcotte, only 11 100ths behind in 5th. Christopher Pietz is going to start off in the 6th position with Kevin Binkley starting off in 7th. Vance Bow in 8th spot and Mark Wilson 9th. Ross Booth will start off in the 10th spot and round out your GTEs.
11 names on the entry list for the GTDs, 9 put in qualifying time, starting with Paul Slavonic, who had a horribly slow start to the season, but has been eating his spinach of late, the last 3 races, coming off a win last time out at Road Atlanta. He's going to be chased by Kevin Santana and Paul Lindsay, the 2 drivers in the championship battle. Dominic Dordenberg in the 4th position with Sheldon Rosenbaugh behind him. Tim McLeish and Mark Trudowski make up the next 2 spots. Jared Eden, Chris Sherburne, and then we talked about Eric Intelli and Jerry Mueller did not put in qualifying times. Joe?
Sad to say that in the prototype field, Luke Carbonneau is the only one in the top 5 besides Billy Smith, who is unreachable, who has shown up today. So he could gain some positions. All the drivers in front of him, Gerard, Wolf, and McGarvey, are not here. Now, Ulmer is here, and he is 79 points back from the leader, which means I believe he might be within striking distance of Gerard potentially. I'll have to do some quick math on that and see if he can actually get in there. In the meantime, the cars are just getting ready to grid up, and we'll have a short pace lap here. Then we'll go racing for 90 minutes for the final round in the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge. I'll start with Adam for our picks for the last time for the season.
Well, man, it's hard to pick. I'm actually going to be risky and pick John Ulmer for that win today. I think John was showing great pace in qualifying and some good feistiness as well. As far as the GTEs are concerned, I'm going to stay with Jason DeVries with the win today. I think he's going to pull some strategy out of his pocket and make some time. And then as far as the GTDs are concerned, I'm going to go with Paul Lindsay winning it from third, trying to take that championship.
I've been too mean to Ulmer all season not to pick him now, so let's go with the Big Cheese to get a win down there. Can't go against David Williams. He gave me a shout-out in the interviews last time we did this one, so David, good luck to you. And down there in the GTDs, too much pressure on Santana to do well, too much pressure on Paul Lindsay to try to do well, so let's give it to Paul Slavonic on the polls.
Voting for Slavonic, you are a brave man indeed, Soup. I can't say based on his history that I would hold the same confidence, but I'd love to be proven wrong because I hate to see how much bad luck and how many ruined races he's had so far this season.
Coming off a win. He's for next season.
This is true. This is true. He did finally turn that around. So as we just about have all of our cars out there, I see just maybe 4 or 5 left to grid up, and then we'll get going. Temperatures have actually gone down since the qualifying. It's 89 degrees Fahrenheit. Remember, it was in the mid-90s before. So drivers here a little bit later in the day, 4 p.m. virtual standard time, should have slightly more grip. However, the bad news is that means that will increase the fuel consumption slightly, as a few more corners could be somewhat more flat out.
Joe, for the sake of all the viewers who are like me, where do we start? Where do we finish?
Good point. So we are going to start after La Source here on the endurance layout. So don't worry if you've watched F1 broadcasts and seen them all crashing into La Source on the first lap. They won't have to deal with that until they've spread out for a lap. But the race finishes after the bus stop chicane, where traditionally you see F1 finishing with that early checkered line there at the end. So make sure and don't let that catch you out. Who do we know that would let them be caught out by such a thing, such as that? As we now watch them heading up to the bus stop chicane, Billy Smith doing a little bit of braking and accelerating, trying to get those tires heated up, the brakes warmed up. Another interesting thing is this pace car is going to pull off here at the bus stop chicane, and then Smith is going to have to control them at pace speed up to the La Source chicane. He is not allowed to go yet. He has to wait until after La Source hairpin. So we're going to have to wait patiently. We'll get a good view of the GTLM class behind them as they come around, try to give them space here at the start. It's going to be a while before they meet any cars that have problems, since they have no brakes until they get to Lacombe. There is the GTDs as well. Billy Smith around the hairpin, and he is going to take off early. He's not going to sit around on this one. The 901 takes the green flag for the last round of the season as they come down into Eau Rouge and Radillon. Already, they are very single file in this small class. Up and over the hill, no drama there. Let's head to the GTLMs.
Not quite a single file in the GTLMs as they hit Eau Rouge and Radillon, but they do get single file as they go through the twisting sector. David A. Williams currently leads, and we have a spin in the background. I believe that is going to be Vance Bow, who spins out. Olivier Turcotte looks like he's having some connection issues, but we're going out back to the GTDs.
Paul Lindsay wasted no time in his Legacy Drive Painter machine as he jumps to the lead, going a little bit wide. Let me say, it's Paul Slavonic. We got another one around Lindsay in second. Let's see, we think we've lost one in the GTDs. Oh, it's Kevin Santana right in a Rouge. Lost it.
And he hit hard into the wall. He had to take a tow. I'd say that might be championship over, because Lindsay continues on. And that was Olivier Turcotte that went absolutely flying off the course after he lost it in Radillon. We'll get back to that in a little bit and take a look at those replays. Right now we're watching our leaders as Smith still up at the front, Ulmer in second. How about this, though? Kevin O'Keefe has managed to sneak into third, past Carbonneau.
Kevin was showing great, consistent pace in qualifying, except for those couple of mistakes that he made going off track when the tires got old. So Kevin O'Keefe with some really great race pace to show on this race, and he's currently ahead of Luke Carbonneau. We saw those two battle it out about 2 rounds ago, so expect Kevin to keep that pace up, and he's right on the back still of John Ulmer, who's about a second and a half behind our leader, Billy Smith, right now.
Oh, and behind them is going to be a close battle because Carbonneau's got Canchin looking on him, but decides better of it, locking up the brakes. That's O'Keefe trying to stay out of the back of Ulmer. No position change for any of them as they complete the first lap. And I can tell you in the GTLMs, Williams still leads De Vries, who is in second. Oh, and Kundinger just missed the braking for the bus stop himself.
Yeah, Kundinger missing the braking is going to put him in susceptible to Leif Peterson, who's tucked in behind him. But Jason De Vries was trying to pass David A. Williams on the braking just past the long straight that we have coming up here past Eau Rouge and Radillon. But here we go. Jason De Vries with a good opportunity to pass David A. Williams if he wants to. But we know Jason De Vries is all about fuel saving. So let's see whether or not he's able to do that this race as well. Let's see whether he wants to take an opportunity on Williams or whether he decides to stay right behind him.
cut a lot of Radion off at the top of the hill. And he's definitely following in that slipstream. Look at the Ford weaving back and forth. David Williams trying to hold him back. Down in the GTD class, though, it is very tight as they come up to Eau Rouge for the second time, rather.
I'll tell you right now, Sheldon Rosenbaum is on Dominic Dorenberg like a new pair of shoes on a rainy day. He has been all over him, and he's not far ahead of Mark Golowski as these guys battle for third position. In fact, here comes the run from Rosenbaum, but I think he's going to wait. He's got a good run. Let's stay with it. Taking his half out of the middle is Dornenberg, but he's going to have to wait. These guys are being driven away from Slavonic and Lindsay.
That's the way Slavonic wants it. He probably wants all the track he can get to himself. Is once again another good run by Rosenbaum on Dornenberg down into Ravage, but not enough straightaway to get aggressive this early in the race. There's a car off behind them. Oh, I didn't quite catch who that was.
That was Jared Eaton.
He took a tow immediately. So he's another one suffering very early on. With an already small field, it seems that attrition playing a heavy role.
Eden had already gotten into the back of Tim McLeish going into the bus stop, so it's been a rough day for Jared.
I think we got a little bit of time now to try and take a glance at our replays for the start. I wonder if we could pull up Olivier Turcotte's replay so we can see what exactly happened and who hit him that just sent him off into the trees. He became a wind sail.
Yeah, Turcotte was actually hit by Vance Bow. Vance came unsighted onto the wreck, as actually it was Binkley and Christopher Paez who ended up being the drivers who approached him and were able to dodge him. We're going to see it right here. Actually, I believe there it is.
Oh, there it is. It's like a piece of popcorn.
You just went to space, Joe. Yeah, we're going to see it happen right up ahead of them here.
Bow was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. In the back of the pack here. Starts to happen. He can't see a thing.
Nope, can't see it at all.
And if we go right back, we can check out Santana because he's probably getting there right now. Santana's car just gets a little bit loose and he puts it in the wall right about the same time.
It looks like we won't be able to get that, unfortunately. As we come back live, Ulmer still second behind Smith and about 1.4 behind him. Kevin O'Keefe still following about 1.2 seconds back. Everybody just kind of settling in early on.
Yeah, and remember, this is the endurance race, so these drivers are definitely going to be settling into their own pace around here. You're not going to want to push too much and burn off those tires early, especially because we're at 4:09 virtual standard time for these drivers, so it's only going to get to a cooler track from here. If you burn off these tires early, you're not going to be able to use them later on for more advantage.
So bad news for fans of Paul Slavonic. Paul Lindsay is keeping him very honest. It's less than half a second from P1 to P2 as we ride on board with who we believe is our championship winner now. Lindsay still getting chased. A little wide, though, off of No Name. That's going to cost him a few tenths.
Lindsay can race without the sword of Damocles hanging over his head now with Santana having issues. Go out there and get himself a win to close out the season.
I have to admit, from a neutral point of view, it's a bit disappointing because we didn't have our one half of our equation in the GTLM class, and now we immediately lost one half of the equation in the GTDs. But the good news is that Spa does offer good racing typically, as the drafting tends to keep cars that are close on pace very tight together, as we see right here. Lindsay's already made up those 2 tenths. He's closing in on Slavonic. The question is, can he hold on through Blanchimont? Let's see what he can do. Oh, both of them washing out a little bit there, and that's going to be incident points. Lindsay's going to try to take advantage of it, but a little bit of a defensive move from Slavonic's going to deny him those incident points, Bill. I have a feeling that's going to be a big talking point today.
Indeed, we've seen drivers blink away on the last lap, battling for wins because of incident points, and Spa is one of those places. Boy, I love that Dougie Bear shot there. We can see them all coming at you. This is a place where you can use incident points almost as if a push to pass. You can save them because you can actually gain some time here. It's not like you're wasting them. They can actually make you go a little bit faster.
Yeah, depends on how risky you want to be and how many you save for the end, I suppose.
The good news is You get bonus points if you're clean. We know that those guys have lost them. If Bradley Haley's watching on vacation, the good news is Jason Vreese didn't get the bonus point for sitting on the pole. So I guess that's a little good news for him.
Lindsay backed off.
Ooh, so Lindsay may be going for the fuel strategy here behind Slavonic. And you make a good point, Bill. I've kind of put the kibosh on the championship in the GTLM, but De Vries does have to at least finish the race above 5th, so he can't get careless out here today.
Hey, I love iRacing, but anything can happen. I was in an absolute beginner race broadcasting it yesterday where half the field went out with 2 laps to go, so you never know.
Yeah, just like real racing, it's just not over until that checkered flag falls. As we've been watching this, it isn't super close yet, but Ulmer's closed in on Smith by a few tenths. He's got it down to close to half a second now. So that will be interesting between those two because Ulmer going to be very hungry for a victory as well.
Yeah, Joe, and Ulmer just put in the fastest lap of the race, a 2:05.231 versus Billy Smith's last lap, which was 2:05.671. So 3.5 tenths faster than Billy Smith. That may not seem like much, but in these prototypes, that can mean everything. Now, they're about 12 seconds behind the nearest GTD lapped car of Eric Tilly. And considering the fact that they're lapping about 15 seconds faster, they're going to catch Eric by the time they hit Radion and Eau Rouge next lap.
This has me wondering, because we saw Smith seem to go quicker and quicker as the qualifying went on. I wonder if the car's set up for the tires really taking a bit to get to come together for Ulmer, and now we're seeing the evidence of that.
Yeah, that might be the case for him. I mean, developing a long-run car for this race is a really, really great idea, and especially that could benefit him as they get further on in the race for sure. As the temperatures go down, he might even get faster on the longer runs. I did take a look at Jason De Vries on David A. Williams as they were going up the Kemmel Straight, and De Vries did back off, just like we saw Paul Lindsay backing off. But Paul Lindsay and Paul Slavonic are very close right now.
I think Lindsay's going to make a move. Slavonic's got to pick a lane. He was over on the right side, then he did a little Sam Hornish drift to the left. But I think he confused Lindsay a little bit. And he goes, boy, this is a long race. If I can't get a feel for it on this lap, I'll get you next time.
It's a big lift, though. I'm still of the mind that Lindsay's looking at trying to go the distance. From what I've been told, 19 laps will be about the marker that they'll aim for in the GTD class to try and split it on a single stop. And considering how long they often go, I don't know. I feel like it could be possible.
And Soup, last time that they were here, Paul Slavonic had a big moment through this corner right here, through Pouan, where he actually ended up spinning out and hitting the inside wall. Is that going to be sitting in the back of his mind as he goes around here in the lead once again?
Well, Slavonic has a very, very short memory. He's good to go.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, though. He's continuing to be trailed by Paul Lindsay very, very closely. The 70s certainly seems to be up to something. We're just about halfway through what we expect will be the first stint as they come down through the Stavelo 1 and 2 and now heading towards Blanchimont. It's another spot where we expect to see Lindsay start to close in. See how clean they can keep it through Blanchimont this time, if anybody's going to waste a 1X. Nope, both of them are going to stay nice and within the painted lines.
I hate chicanes. They are about as much fun as like an elementary school hall monitor, but if there was one chicane I like, it's this one. Boy, it's a great passing zone. And then, Joe, how many races have we seen where it's decided coming out of the chicane with like a drag race to the finish line here at Spa?
Quite a few. By the way, we had a change for position in GTLM. Binkley just overtook Peterson for P4, and I think that was a big lift, so nothing terribly exciting here, but we'll see. Watch the 39. He sees it coming. And this comes back to what we've been seeing from a lot of drivers, almost a preservation stance here, just letting them go like that.
Yeah, it definitely was a lift there from Leif Peterson. And we're seeing there's one going on right now as well while we're running this replay with Paul Lindsay and Paul Slavonic. Once again, Lindsay with no intention of passing Slavonic. So it looks like everybody who's tucked in behind people right now, aside from Kevin Binkley, are intending on saving fuel.
We were talking about incident points. Kevin Binkley is the one driver that comes to mind. I saw him actually lose a win at, it would have been the Australian race on the island. What is that track?
Phillip Island?
Phillip Island, yeah. He got to his incident max on like coming out of that MG corner, blinked away, didn't get the win. Kevin remembers that one.
By the way, let's head over to Luke Carbonneau. Remember, he started up in 3rd position. He's down to 5th. He might be able to get back up to 4th right now. And in fact, yes, he's another one that's going to easily slipstream by Robert Cancian, who is another that gave a lift to the oncoming car. But Carbonneau has fallen way off of where his qualifying pace seemed to imply he should be able to run.
Well, Carbonneau had a spin coming through those couple of corners that we just went through, and that's actually what had him drop off the back of Kevin O'Keefe and get passed by Robert Cancian. Oh, we've had a spin in the GTD class. That was Jerry Mueller who spun around right in front of our leaders in the prototypes, and John Ulmer might look like he might try and take an advantage of this moment here.
Yeah, that had to be scary for both Smith and Ulmer because that was going through Pouan, and it was a tank slapper. So they had no idea which way Mueller was going to wind up going. Let's watch on the replay.
Maybe we can take a second look at this one. Watch from here as we look from the outside. Look at the car get loose. It really is a tank slapper. This is it. And then maybe we can take another quick look from on board, maybe with from Billy Smith.
Oh, it was loose already on the way in.
I got it. I don't got it. I got it.
Fortunately, didn't hit anything, but yeah, that's tough stuff. And here's from Billy Smith's onboard. We're going to see it as he watches this happen. This is what held him up, and now has John Ulmer right on his rear bumper.
Well, and once again, a car really blocking his view.
Yeah.
So he had no idea if he had picked the right way until it became clear. And then Smith taking a little, or excuse me, Ulmer taking a look on Smith and not producing fruit. However, Ulmer now has a good run, and they're going to come up over Eau Rouge. If he can stay within the buffeting air and keep close enough, the slipstream should help him on the way up the Kemmel Straight. Looks marginal here.
Yeah, he's not quite close enough, and Billy Smith moved over to the left side to break that draft, as well as to get the draft of Mark Kudrowski up ahead of him. But Ulmer towing quite well up into this corner, and Kudrowski's going to have to go to the apex, so that's going to hold up Billy Smith. Ulmer might have an opportunity if he wants it.
Stay off to the left side. Both of them going to get through, but a bad exit allows Ulmer to get to the inside, down into Rivage, wheel to wheel, as they send it through the plunging 180-degree hairpin. And with that desired inside line, Ulmer's got it done.
That was a high IQ play from Ulmer. He saw exactly what was going to happen there with Billy Smith being held up, and he decided to wait and make a good exit on that corner using Kudrowski as a pick, and he's now up in the lead of this race.
First lead change in this whole race so far, so 15 minutes in, just past 15 minutes in, and our prototypes swap around, but there's more traffic in front of them. That's Rosenbaum and Dornenberg up in front of them, not directly battling, but they're close enough. They probably won't to give up too much, just like that, as Billy Smith had to get out of it big time. Oh, and there goes Sheldon Rosenbaum off into the wall.
Too nice of a guy.
Had the apex taken away on the second part of Stavilo.
Yeah, Smith was not happy about that interaction at all, and he decided to take the apex, and Rosenbaum he just carried too much speed at the corner, considering the fact that his apex was gone.
Well, I didn't think he figured on having to miss the apex like he would it.
Once he was out in the gray stuff, there was not much helping it, and he's already coming into pit lane, which that might be a little early for the strategy.
He's got more problems to deal with than fuel strategy, Joe, unfortunately.
That's true. Even still, I'd hate to see him go that far off sequence. It's just going to be a miserable day. Up at the front of the GTD field, though, Slavonic still ahead of Lindsay. And they're going to be passed by O'Keefe, who is the blue and white prototype going by now. Already lost a number of drivers. Santana's actually retired, so he is officially not going to win this championship. Vance Bow is gone. Olivier Turcotte is out, and Jared Eaton is officially out. Mueller's in pit lane getting repairs. So is Sheldon Rosenbaum. So not entirely sure if they're going to keep fighting.
One of the points I was going to make during the pre-race show I had on my notes here was because of the small car count and the large track that maybe lap traffic wasn't going to be as big as a factor as it usually plays. Well, it already has reared its ugly head.
One thing I've been noticing while watching Paul Slavonic race around this track is that he's starting to get very loose through the center of the corners. So is Paul Lindsay, believe it or not. So all these GTD drivers are really struggling. Remember, they have a new tire compound versus the last time that they raced at this track, and they're all trying to figure out how that's going to race around here. Granted, most of them probably did a race in the Spa 24 hours, so hopefully they have quite a few laps around this track.
And Lindsay won't really have the same frame of reference when watching Slavonic in front of him because it's two different makes of cars. Slavonic in the Audi, Lindsay in the Merc. And not only do they drive differently, but they'll have different styles of wear, different behaviors at the end of the stint. So you can't really, you can only watch and observe and really not place anything on his car in the same way. More prototypes coming through very wide there for Slavonic coming off of Lachemont. Looks like one of our championship contenders looking to maybe talk to us now that he has left the field, left the racetrack, as Kevin Santana has joined us in the booth. Kevin, commiserations. It looks like it ended unfortunately early. I assume that that hit was hard enough that your day was done as soon as it started.
I really didn't see the point of continuing.
Was the rabbit that ran across the road there or something? Because there was no one around you.
I think Paul tapped me.
Didn't happen. Yeah, it didn't.
I don't know what. I was just feathering the throttle through there, and it jumped out, and that's all she wrote.
We're already sowing the seeds of controversy up here. Kevin, man, this is what, second or third time we've watched you miss out on the GTD championship. I mean, are you going to stick with it, or would you like to try and jump up into one of the higher classes? Because you keep coming so close.
Yeah, I think I'm probably going to run GTE next season.
Well, we'll look forward to you up there. Do you have anybody to talk to to help prep you to the switch to the faster cars?
I'll figure it out as I go.
All right. Well, sounds like a racer at heart there. Just getting in and driving. Again, commiserations, Kevin, and thanks for at least giving us some hope for battle there at the end.
Yeah, I was hoping. All through practice, the thing was fine through there. And then come race, it just decides it wants to swap ends. I don't know.
That was Kevin Santana, obviously a little bit flummoxed himself. Looks like Sheldon Rosenbaum tried to get back out on track and has since taken a tow. I'm not sure if he got more damage, but I saw him off at Pouhon, and he is now officially gone. He's exited the session. That's our latest retiree.
No need to go there. Gary Mueller just put it in the wall as well. His day is done.
Back up to John Ulmer. Ever since he's gotten by, this does not look good for Billy Smith. It's already grown to 1.5 seconds between them. And another fastest lap.
Well, yeah, the fastest lap actually for Billy Smith that time around, so he is trying to make dents into John Ulmer's times. But John, I mean, that lap traffic really did cause a lot of chaos for John Ulmer, for Billy Smith rather, because he actually lost about 2.5 seconds to John Ulmer through that exchange. So he's actually gained a little bit of time back on Ulmer recently. So Smith trying to get back up there to Ulmer, but I'm sure he's really frustrated right now. And now he's got Mark Wilson at his apexes as well.
Yeah, this is where things start to get a little bit twisty. Wilson can't really jump out of the way because it's one line through there. There he finally goes through. Just that little holdup has lengthened it from 1.4 seconds up to 1.9 now. Billy Smith has got some work to do. Worth noting, also Kevin O'Keefe, credit where credit is due. O'Keefe is only about 4 seconds behind Smith right now, so he's not falling off all that quickly. That's some good pace in the 629 car.
These guys know that no interval is too big when you're following John Ulmer.
Yeah, O'Keefe has actually been very impressive this entire race. I mean, his qualifying time was nothing to sneeze at either. He's got Mark Wilson to deal with here, and traffic has always been a little bit of his Achilles heel, but he handles the car very well around this corner. Kevin O'Keefe showing that he's still got pace in this machine.
One of these days, Bill, I swear you're gonna go down to Texas and you're gonna run into Ulmer, and he's gonna pop you on this. You keep picking on him like this.
I have sent him many an email making sure we're on good terms, and he's fine with it.
As we continue to watch Kevin O'Keefe working his way around Blanchimont and coming up to complete yet another lap here. Things starting to spread out amongst the field as we start to close in on the first set of pit stops we expect, at least for the prototypes. They tend to be the thirstiest of the field.
I'm actually taking a look at a battle between Kevin Binkley and Carter Kundinger. Now, Kevin Binkley, he started off way back in the 7th position, and he's moved his way up to 4th so far and been catching Carter Kundinger. So Kevin did not have a qualifying that represented the times he can run, and he's now almost up to the 3rd spot, and he's only about 5 seconds behind Jason DeVries, and he's been gaining significantly on those front two over the last couple of laps. So Binkley showing he's got some good race pace here.
Right on board with the 75. That's Kundinger in our windscreen in the Ferrari. Worth noting as well, they are being quickly approached by the prototypes for the first time. Going to get lapped, and that could be what Binkley's waiting for here. Just letting that Ferrari get distracted long enough that he could sneak through.
Oh my. Speaking of those prototypes, actually, Billy Smith cut down that 2.5 gap to just half a second in one lap. So he's managing this traffic since that incident fairly well right now, and Ulmer's getting held up.
Ooh, yeah, he is. That was Ross Booth. We didn't see it on screen, and it is going to hold up Billy Smith a little bit too. Let's head back to those prototype leaders. It's down to half a second between them as they come up to Stavelo one more time. Next one for them going to be Leif Peterson, and then they approach the Binkley-Kundinger battle.
Look at these veteran names they had to go through. They just went through Ross Booth. Next one they're going to be coming up on is Leif Peterson, another veteran. And then you got Binkley and Kundinger, both have their fair share of races in Autobahn.
Yeah, so these two drivers are gonna have, if they deal with any trouble with these guys, they're gonna have nobody to be frustrated at but themselves and their friends, because I know that all these guys do talk amongst one another off track. So this is all just great fun for these guys and a great competitive championship for all of them. But look how close this battling is between Ulmer and Smith. Here comes Leif Peterson right at the apex here. Stavelo, here they go through the corner, and they're going to come up to Overage and Radion. They should be able to make it past Leif Peterson by the time they enter that corner.
One's through. That's Ulmer. And Smith by as well, just in time, actually. It was a little tight there. I'm sure that made him sweat. Now they
Canchin's off. We're going to stay here for a moment. Robert Canchin just had a spin.
Oh, and it'll be great to look at it from Mike Major, who got into him.
Well, we just saw on screen that was a mistake from Billy Smith coming into Lacombe. Outbraked himself and lost all the ground that he had just made up. We saw that one on screen. So why don't we go back to the replay of Canchin, who's very slow right now. This is going to happen in La Source.
That's Mike Major, the car at the very top left of your screen.
Oh, he makes contact. Oh, very clumsy between them, but that is a blind corner with that wall there. With a sharp hairpin, Major didn't know what he was coming up on. He's able to keep going. Canchin seems to be very, very slow. He must have hit the suspension of the 199. He's there. There he is, right there in the TMC Racing Voodoo car. Got all kinds of pins.
Let's
and
go to
needles in there
Lindsay.
right now.
Car number 70. I think he's finally making the move. I've been watching him. He's been annoying me for the last 27 minutes, and now he makes the move finally on Slavonic.
What did we say earlier about pit stops probably coming up? Yeah, so Lindsay probably deciding now's when I want track position. He gets on by Slavonic. Slavonic didn't fight it much, though.
Well, if you look at their lap time, Slavonics' fastest lap is a good 2/10 slower than Lindsay's. And Lindsay, yes, he's been in the draft most of the day, but Lindsay might have thought to himself, you know what, I think Slavonics holding me up at this point. I just need to get on with my own race.
Yeah, probably saved plenty of fuel in the half an hour that he was sitting behind him as well. So I'm sure he's gotten the best of both effects at this point. Certainly, wow, man, he's already 0.4 of a second beyond him, and it was only a couple corners ago that he just made this pass. We report that Robert Canchin, after the contact, is into pit lane. Remember, this is the endurance pits layout, so Adam, it's going to be extra painful if you come in extra time.
Yeah, I mean, especially, like, they don't have any pass-through penalties in this series, but if they did, those pass-throughs are a good minute on this track, so it's really challenging for drivers whenever they get those penalties, for sure.
Folks, Adam told me that nobody can, in my GTD class, can one-stop it. I'm hoping somebody tries. Come on. Eric and Tilly, Chris Sherburne back there, taking it nice and slow. Let's one-stop this thing.
Yeah, I think that's the most likely class to be able to attempt something like that. They tend to go to the longest of the three classes.
Especially with the pit lane that is like, basically runs from Belgium to France. It actually works here.
Lindsay's not pitting this time. He's going to go around one more. We've only had one car still running that's actually pitted, and that's Eric Tilly. He's last in the GTD field. Not sure if this is scheduled. Actually, did Tilly start from pit lane even? Because it's been a 12-lap stint, and they're on lap 12 in that class. So I think he must have started from pit lane. So he hasn't pitted then. And in GTLMs, looks like Williams still towing along Jason DeVries, but not by that close of a margin.
Well, he actually has been pulling a gap on him consistently ever since about the 5th or 6th lap of this race. And DeVries doesn't look to be in a hurry to get his way back up to Williams. Williams is trying to break the draft to DeVries most of the time through there, as we see Williams lock up those right front tires as they go through the corner. But Williams driving a very consistent race right now, and that's something to be ashamed of, especially when you're in front of Jason DeVries, a man who has both pace and strategy, as we see Luke Carbonneau is going to be coming up on Williams as they come through over Germania.
Now, that tunnel straight is going to hurt for any car that has any sort of damage on them. There's, you see all three classes in one shot nicely. One of those drivers I think that has damage is Mike Major. We saw him make the contact before. He's been caught by Shane Hunter very, very quickly. There you see him on screen. They're coming up on Leif Peterson. That was a lift, so that wasn't necessarily straight line speed, but Major definitely gave it away.
I'm just taking a look to see whether or not there is any damage on his machine, and yeah, that front clip is a little bit damaged on that machine, very subtly, but he is taking some damage on that as he's trying to get his way around Leif Peterson.
Sad to see that he's going to have a bit of a hard time. He can come in and get some repairs since they do have 2 scheduled pit stops remaining in this race. We still have that battle of what is now for the podium between Kundinger and Beakley in the GTLMs.
Yeah, Binkley just cannot find his way past Kundinger, and the lap traffic of the HPDs is really not helping him out. He does have the raw pace on Carter Kundinger, but every time he gets some HPDs in the mix, things start to get broken up. The next HPD behind him is Shane Hunter, about 2.5 seconds back, and Shane should be able to catch up to the back of them by the time they go into Stavlo, so things could get a little bit more complicated here right as Binkley's catching up to the back of Kundinger once again.
And I can tell you that Billy Smith has just pitted.
Well,
Canchin also has been in and out since his repairs that he needed.
58 minutes in, so that's about the right time if you want to split this race even.
There he is coming down the lane. With him being on the pole, he's got to go all the way to the end before he can get his service. Major joins him. think those are the only two this lap from the prototype class that are going to be coming in this time by. Everybody else keeps going. Ulmer, O'Keefe, Carbonneau, and Hunter. That's your top 4 still out on track. So back to that fight as they come up the Kimmel straight. Kundinger, as you can see, was just overtaken by his teammate Shane Hunter.
We're right up in behind Eric and Tilly, who's going to pull over and let the two go. I think Kevin Binkley was really hoping that Eric and Tilly would hold up Kundinger a little bit there, because I think Binkley's tires might be toast. He has been doing a lot of aggressive passing and a lot of high speed around this track to try and make his way past as many cars as possible. I think until we hit the pit stops again, he might be toast here. But Kundinger is looking to be struggling a little bit himself. He's actually looking very tight through most of these corners, which means he's tracking out a little bit more than he'd like. You can see him catching the AstroTurf there on the exit there as we look through the windshield of Binkley. So Binkley smells blood in the water, but I'm not sure his car's up to it right now.
Different makes as well. That can sometimes affect things. The BMW and the Ferrari a bit different in how they find their speed. From what I understand, at least, Adam, doesn't the Ferrari have a little bit better through the corners typically?
Typically a little bit better through the corners, but the BMW has it a lot better on the straights, and there's a lot of straights here at Spa, even if they do include a little bit of turns, a little bit of banking here. But that BMW looks really well balanced, whereas Carter Kundinger looks like he's really having trouble turning that mid-engine Ferrari in. The front engine and much heavier BMW behind him seems to be tackling these corners, these high-speed corners, a little bit better. And look at this, Binkley with a decent exit off the corner. I don't think he's going to try anything here in Stavlo, but as they go up through Eau Rouge and Radion, look for Binkley to try and get as best of an exit as he can off of those corners to try and make a pass.
Sticking right with it. We've also had stops for all 4 of our remaining prototypes, Ulmer, O'Keefe, Carbonneau, and Hunter. None of them have reached their stalls yet. There they are on the other side of that fence. You can just see glances of them. Ooh, this is looking very good for Binkley.
Oh man, but Kundinger just is able to pull a little bit more through Eau Rouge and Radion, but is Binkley close enough to try and make a dive as they come up to the next corner?
I don't think so. He doesn't appear quite close enough. He does show himself. He's trying to get into the head of Kundinger. Meanwhile, how is it going to swap around with our leaders? Because Billy Smith is just out of La Source. Ulmer is just exiting now, but he's got to get his speed up. What is this going to mean for Smith? He's got the momentum. Ulmer is just past the exit. Smith comes off of Radion. He's gaining a little bit, but it's probably, it looks to me like it's going to even back out to where it was before, if not slightly larger.
Yeah, but Ulmer's tucked in right behind Mark Wilson. He's going to have to get his way past, and half his apex is blocked there through this section, so that's going to hold him up a little bit and give a little bit of advantage to Billy Smith, who has the tires up to temperature right now. So Ulmer might have a little bit of trouble getting to the apexes of these corners in this early portion of his stint, whereas Billy Smith has those tires hot and ready to go. He's now got to get past Mark Wilson.
Those prototypes get up to speed pretty quick. I thought Billy Smith was going to be able to run him down, but Ulmer had it revved up right down a nice run down into the cone.
No changes among any of our prototype class with that set of stops. Ulmer, Smith, O'Keefe, Carbonneau, Hunter, Major, Canchin exit just as they were. The only unusual stop we had was Canchin, who had to get repairs during his. It is worth noting that Smith had a shorter stop than Ulmer by about 2 seconds, actually. So he should have been much closer. Our leader in the GTLMs decides to pit, and De Vries stays out.
And Carter Kundinger also coming into the pits as well. So two of our leading drivers coming into the pits, whereas De Vries and Binkley both stay out. Now, what's interesting about both of those drivers? De Vries and Binkley were the ones tucked in behind the drivers who are in the pits right now, so they saved a little bit more fuel.
All right, Adam, what do we do for tires in your class? They take them now, they take them later, they don't take them at all.
Oh man, I mean, with the way that the track has been running, I would take them, but you are going to lose time in the pit lane because of that. That being said, you have to fill up all the way with fuel, so it really is a gamble based upon what you think is going to make you the most time on track, and I think that's a gamble you and your crew chief have to talk about.
Williams just about reaching his pit stall as De Vries continues on. Kumdinger following him down. So let's see, about 2 minute 15 for the laps, and we are 7 minutes out. So what would that be, about 5 laps to get to halfway for Jason De Vries? Oh man, that seems like a very tall order.
5 laps is a long time here at Spa. That's a good, that's almost 10 minutes. So Williams does not take tires on that stop. That's a 22.8 second stop. He's going to pull out. Carter Kumdinger does exactly the same. No tires for him as well. So they're planning on not doing tires this time around. It'll be interesting to see what De Vries does. He probably wasn't using his tires as much as Williams or Kumdinger, so he might not have to take tires either, and that looks like that might be the play. Ulmer's made it past, Smith has made it past Ulmer.
Let me look and see what happened. Oh, Ulmer just made a mistake. It was just about 40 seconds ago, going through No Name. Here it is right here.
Oh, this could have ended in disaster.
Yeah, it was a good catch, but I'm sure he's just as frustrated as the car gets awful loose and he keeps it out of the barriers.
Oh.
Did the Belgian like
That's a win.
Much?
That's a win for Ulmer. That cat's got a few lives.
Yeah, now on life number 2 here, Ulmer having recovered well, but he's pushing very hard to make his way back up to Billy Smith. He's still loose. Holy smokes.
Wow. You don't often see prototypes drifting like that. That was interesting. Ross Booth is in. Also, Leif Peterson, Kevin Binkley, Tim McLeish has pitted, or at least is in pit lane.
This is going to be everybody except for Jason De Vries in the GTLMs are going to be in the pit lane. Jason De Vries, our current leader, out on track, having inherited it from David A. Williams.
There's Williams right now. He is down in 7th. He's going to get all these positions back. So Binkley, who should come out a little bit behind him. Now, remember, Binkley was fighting with Kumdinger, and this is where it's going to get interesting. There's Binkley in his stall.
Kumdinger just coming out of the final chicane there. He's going to come around Stavlo. We're taking a look right there. That was David A. Williams who was leading the race. Binkley in his stall. Williams' stop was a 22.8. What's Binkley going to be here? 22 seconds, 23 seconds, 23.4, so a little bit slower. So Williams is going to go by, but is Binkley going to get caught by Kumdinger here?
Kumdinger's coming along there. You can see him right there into Eau Rouge. Right on board, and he is through.
Slavonic and Lindsay both pit, but look how close they are to the 45-minute mark.
You think someone could do it, Soup?
I'm going to give you a name, Eric Antilli. He's faster than what he's showing right now. He started in pit lane. Why? Because he wanted to save that quarter lap of a pace lap. Watch out for him.
I'll be honest, I thought the same thing, Bill. I feel like that's probably what we saw there, because there is no reason to start from pit lane otherwise, especially in the GTD class. De Vries is finally in. He did not make it to halfway himself.
And I think De Vries is going to be a decent ways behind Williams when we come out of this, because it was about 1:06 the gap between Williams and De Vries, and most of these drivers have spent 1:25 on pit lane. So Williams might have gained a lot from the undercut here. De Vries, I'm not sure whether his fuel strategy is working out for him. We'll see how his second stint goes.
2 whole laps, though, is quite a bit of time. That's how many more that he was able to go than David Williams. So I don't know. De Vries seems like he might still have a strategic advantage here since his window is a little bit more open. So we watch Slavonic now.
Oh, Lindsay's out first.
Him to finish. There's no surprise here. Lindsay was just sitting and waiting for so long. In fact, the difference in pit stop times is roughly a second between them.
And Soup, what was the difference between how Paul Lindsay and Paul Slavonic's first stints? Lindsay was the one tucked in behind Slavonic for over half of it.
Uh-huh. Now, Eric Antilli is out in front. I'm not sure he's going fast enough to make this work because he's got maybe, well, I can tell you, he's got 13 seconds on Lindsay.
Sherburne's actually ahead of him because Sherburne hasn't pitted as we...
You're right.
There goes Williams.
This is the battle. Williams is by.
DeVries not losing too much time, but it's going to be more than the 2 seconds he came into the pits with.
Oh, but he just disappeared.
No.
I think he's got a connection issue here. And that is really bad news.
If he does not return and he's unable to make it up to 5th position, that would mean Bradley Haley would inherit the win. Jason DeVries finally returns back to the track, to it at 0.8 seconds behind David A. Williams, but that must have been a terrifying moment for DeVries.
Wow. Well, you said it, Bill. It ain't over till it's over. It's...
I feel sorry for the maid in Bradley Haley's motel room because he just spilled all of his cocktail over the carpet there. He thought he won a championship. Sorry, Bradley.
There's our leader, though, David Williams, holding 2 seconds over Jason DeVries. DeVries does not need to win this race to take the championship, so he can allow Williams to run away if he wishes.
Chris Sherburne pits from the lead with 46 minutes and 30 to go.
Until he has not pit.
And until he goes around again. There it is, baby.
And that will take him to the halfway mark. Okay, so where is Lindsay? Now, the bad news is Lindsay's right behind him already. He's something like 10 seconds back there. So
yeah.
He's not going to get a win out of this. But I could see a podium potentially.
Well,
again, look, they each have one more stop to make. So,
and also, it's not over till it's over. Who knows? One of these guys might end up spinning out, and that could give him an even better position. Or if they wreck each other, maybe he does inherit the win.
Well, and right now, Lindsay and Slavonic are relatively close behind him, but Dornenberg, he's about a whole minute back there. So, yeah, it's going to be close on if Antilli could get himself a 3rd place with this strategy.
All about how fast he can go. Antilli pace and a pretty face. That's what I have to say. Keep that pace up, Antilli. Got the little big bopper in on you there.
It's going to be well past halfway by the time Antilli actually gets to his stall. If he gets to his stall. Now, if he sputters, that's going to cost him a lot of time. But he could pick up the pace potentially a little bit on the second half. Because here we go. There's the 45 minutes right there.
He's short shifting. He short shifted up to 5th gear, so he's definitely, look at him staying 3rd around this sector as well, so he's definitely trying to save as much fuel as possible.
Nothing worse than running out of gas in the Jack-in-the-Box fast food lane. Let's hope he can actually get through pit lane.
You know, that's a good point. We haven't seen any crazy moments like we have in that little corner in the pits, like we have in seasons past. Of course, we still have one more pit cycle to go through. I may have spoke too soon.
That's a good comparison, Soup. The Jack-in-the-Box fast food lane. It really does feel like that when you're making that tight turn around that corner.
This is the pit entry. Let's see how tight it is on fuel for Eric Antilli. Just tiptoeing around this track for 45 minutes and looking very likely to be the only car to be able to make one stop on this race.
I'm genuinely impressed right now.
What's amusing is he's still in 3rd gear, even though he's down in pit lane. Okay, now he's popped it into 2nd. Pretty sure you can do 1st on the pit limiter.
And this could all come down to where he finishes in relationship to Billy Smith or John Ulmer, right? And how many laps he has to go.
No, and that was another thought as I was talking about the time, is one thing that could really throw him for a loop is if he gets an extra lap that he's not anticipating.
Well, if he's got 50 seconds over Dornenberg, we'll see when he comes out of the pits. It might be close with Dornenberg, but if he has any time on the person behind him, he might just back off and let the guys go ahead of him if they're close enough behind. the leaders in the HPDs.
Dornenberg is coming around LaSource right now, and Tilly, who is looking at a 30-second stop, yeah, he's going to come out behind him.
But Dornenberg's going to have to pit again, and
Right.
Tilly won't. So
That is
we'll
a
have
good
to
point.
wait and see how this plays out.
Battle between Binkley and Kundinger actually has changed position since we last looked, because Kundinger's now behind him. Now, how long ago did this happen? Take a look. We've got the replay. Oh, a mistake by Kundinger down into Puhan. This is Binkley we've got on screen, and there is the slow Kundinger. Caught the car and saved it.
That's heartbreaking, especially with how well, oh my goodness. Yeah, this looked very similar to what we saw with the GT3 as well. He manages to save it fairly well there, but man, that's heartbreaking for him for sure.
That car was pointed at the Armco for a long time, though. I'm sure his heart was in his throat. They're back to that same corner, heading down into to Fanyes now. And the good news for him is that Binkley is still within reach.
Yeah, Binkley just half a second up the road from him. But you got to remember, Kundinger has to cool his tires down. We're going to hop up to the battle for P5 of the HPDs. Mike Major's got a great run on Shane Hunter here, and he's going to try and pass as they head up the Kemmel Straight right now. Shane Hunter with some decent speed, but he's just going to let Mike Major go on by on the inside there. Mike Major well clear into the braking zone.
I'm going to take a stab and say that Mike Major put a new clip on the front of that car, because he's got that pace right back.
Yeah, but he's got 27 seconds up to Luke Carbonneau up ahead of him, so he's got a long way to walk it up to try and get up there.
Bad news for him, unfortunately. We also have a bit of a battle at the back of the GTLMs. Wilson and Pies, the 323 and the 21. And I think they may have just swapped positions.
Yeah, they did.
Look at that. I think Christopher, I'm not sure if he let him have this, because this was not a common place for overtakes. Not impossible, but...
Yeah, it looks like he just moved over there. That is a little bit of contact on the exit. Yeah, that was a little weird.
Meanwhile, if we come back live, P3 and the prototypes has O'Keefe dealing with a charging Carbonneau coming back at him. And I can report that is just as we go to this, that Kundinger just got by Binkley and took the spot back.
Well, here we go with Carbonneau with a great draft of Kevin O'Keefe. I'm not sure how Kevin's going to defend from this, because Carbonneau took a very good line through Arouge and Radion. Kevin keeps pretty decent speed himself, but Carbonneau's in the draft, and we know that Carbonneau can be very aggressive around here. Kevin takes the middle of the road, trying to figure out, he's trying to block off any possible opportunity that Carbonneau has, but Carbonneau not quite close enough.
It's just for pride at this point, because they're not close enough on points for them to swap positions with this battle in the championship.
And Joe, with the interviews we've had with Kevin, he's definitely just looking for good results to boost his confidence around here in these machines. He's been struggling with the HPDs all season and trying to get himself back into the rhythm of racing. And so he's definitely going to put up a hard fight for Carbonneau, I believe.
Another wide exit there for Carbonneau off of No Name. So put another 1X if you're tallying up and trying to keep track of where he sits on incidents.
Yeah, Joe, Kevin's looking very loose in that machine. Carbonneau looking very tight. They have different setups for sure around this. They're on this course, and both of them not really enjoying their second stints right now.
Stay here, because this is definitely a much closer fight.
Oh, Kevin Binkley's gone around.
No.
This is the braking zone into the final chicane.
Does make a little bit of contact with the wall. You can see he's getting the car going once again.
Oh, this might be...
He got shoved over a little bit there.
I think he might not be happy about that one, because I think he might want to say that Kundinger moved in the braking zone.
Apology over the radio from Kundinger, so I think he's acknowledged it. He thinks maybe... from on board, it definitely looks like it. That grass gets very tight to the left side.
Yeah, Kundinger trying to cut it close and cuts it a little bit too close, catching his competitor off guard, unfortunately. So that puts Binkley back behind Peterson, so he's going to have to regain that position all over again. And Mike Major's gone around.
Ooh, another one out of Blanchimont. This was on his own doing. Oh, you're going to... This is what Adam Young calls the hospital wobble. Woo!
Oh, and just makes contact with that inside wall, so he's going to have to come to the pits. And this is a hard one to repair. That side pod is not an easy thing to repair on these HPDs.
Yeah, it's not really within the pit window, I don't think. Although he could be in for repairs for quite a while, and that might get him to the end on fuel, but that still will be costly. Meanwhile, Bill, you've got an update on Intilli. What's been happening since his...
Something interesting for about 2 or 3 laps. Intilli, car number 35. Now, if you're looking at him on screen there, look at the car third back as the prototype goes around him there of Hunter. He was swapping positions with Chris Sherburne. Remember, Sherburne went 1 lap short of what Intilli was doing. They were just kind of swapping positions as if they were saving fuel. I think Intilli finally said, Chris, you're not going fast enough. I got to leave you behind. I think he's met his number now, so it's all about pace for Intilli.
It does look similar to what he was doing before. 222s.
It's like he's riding with his grandmother in the shotgun seat there. It's like he's just going really, really slow, really, really comfortable.
Well, he's playing the IndyCar fuel strategy game where right from the get-go you're trying to hit that fuel number.
Yep.
It doesn't matter how fast your lap pace is, as long as you can make sure you have one less pit stop than everyone else.
No worries about cautions here in this series, as it'll go green from beginning to end. We'll have to keep an eye on this number 35. This has been an intriguing story, and though it doesn't look great for him just by the numbers right now, since he's down in 6 out of 7 cars still running, again, that fuel strategy could gift him quite a good result in the end. Battle P3 and the prototypes is still on. Carbonneau still chasing on the 629. This time, this looks like a pretty good exit here.
O'Keefe has draft up ahead of him. He's got Ross Booth and then Kevin Binkley. He's going to, he actually breaks. He's going to let Ross Booth take the apex. That's going to allow Carbonneau to catch up. And I believe O'Keefe has a lot of downforce taken out of that machine. That's what makes him so fast. It's also what makes him loose around the corners. But Carbonneau, that puts him in a good position to try and pass around the twistier section of the course. Now Carbonneau right tucked up under the rear wing of Kevin O'Keefe.
I think Kevin was reading that situation. That's a battle for position there between Binkley and Booth. So he wasn't looking to get in the middle of that, as Booth goes way off to the right side, coming out of no name. Now they're going to be able to leave Binkley alone, but Binkley still has to go off the apex. At least they won't interrupt the fight anymore after that. But look at how much this has allowed Carbonneau to close in. The Canadian really starting to apply a lot of pressure.
Yeah, especially now noticing that he has little downforce on that machine. Kevin O'Keefe's keeping his foot in it through Pouon was actually quite impressive. That takes some guts, but he's going to get held up here by Lee Peterson. This is the opportunity that Luke Carbonneau needs, but he actually gets a little bit loose coming off the corner, still with good pace. Kevin O'Keefe's got to find a way to block Carbonneau around this corner. He's going to take to the inside, make Carbonneau go around the outside, but Carbonneau has more downforce. How's this going to play out? Carbonneau has to back off.
So that's going to lose him the opportunity. I don't think he's going to be able to send one in here down at the chicane. Yeah, he's going to stay behind. If he could have stayed a little bit closer, he maybe could have tried to do something. Wheel spin once again for Kevin O'Keefe as he just tortures the rubber underneath him.
He's definitely working really hard to stay ahead of Carbonneau and really struggling with turn in this time. That's going to allow Carbonneau to possibly get an overlap. They're going to head up towards already on Eau Rouge. They might go too wide through this corner. If Carbonneau can get enough speed, he's going to think better of it and tuck in right behind him. Here they go through the corner. This might give Carbonneau the draft he needs, but it's going to be really difficult as Kevin O'Keefe's going to have some decent speed up this corner, up this sector as well.
Been in. It's less than a car length now. O'Keefe's going to hold the inside, make him work the long way around to the first apex. It is possible here, breaking into Lacombe, and as they go into the corner, he's got a nose ahead, but he's a little too hot. Contact between them sends O'Keefe off into the barrier.
Yeah, Carbonneau tried to give Kevin O'Keefe room, but that ends up making your entrance to the next corner really shallow, and he clips the curb and bounces off of it and ends up bouncing out into Kevin O'Keefe. A little bit of ghost contact, and that just nudges Kevin O'Keefe's nose around, and he hits the wall hard. He's now in the pits.
So not going to be the end that he was looking for of the season. Just a half hour shy of the checkered flag. That might be our second retirement pending on our prototypes, because Mike Major has been down taking repairs for 4 minutes. We come back to the battle for the lead in the GTDs. Lindsay and Slavonic within half a second of one another.
Yeah, they're a little happy to see what happened back there with that battle that was going on between Carbonneau and O'Keefe, because they were coming right up on him. Here comes Carbonneau right now, going to go through.
For a brief moment, they get back in the line.
Now, that was Carter Kundinger, the Ferrari that's up ahead of him. He's currently in third place in the GTEs. He was the one that Binkley was battling with. Binkley still has not made it up to leave Peterson in the fourth position in those GTEs, as we still watch this GTD battle for the lead.
We're approaching that second pit stop cycle. Wonder who we'll see take a short middle stint, if anybody does, just to try to get some track position or see if they could do something to shake up the order. Down the hill, top two in the GTD class, still running away from it. The big question mark is who is going to take the victory. Lindsay, though, you have to say, I mean, he's able to go for it now if he wants to, because it doesn't matter where he finishes, he will take the victory over his championship rival, Kevin Santana.
These guys are equally matched. Slavonic able to stay with him, not able to pull away. Lindsay not able to pull away and can stay with Slavonic.
Oh, Slavonic backed up very early there. Clearly saving some fuel here, tucked in behind Lindsay. He wants a shorter stop so he can run away from Lindsay on this final stop of the race, I think.
Slavonic's a smart cookie. I have a feeling he was watching exactly what Lindsay was doing in the first stint and said, if you can do that, I can do that. We can turn this around. Right on board with Slavonic now, coming down through No Name. You would think, though, of all the tracks that this car would not be suited well, though, Adam, it would be Spa, because that poor Audi, it's notorious in the fast corners for being a handful.
Yeah, that rear end just likes to snap around on you. Fortunately, the new tires have made it so that it's a little bit more predictable on when that snap is going to happen. Slavonic talked about that a little bit. But look at how much he's gaining here on Lindsay in the corners. Man, I mean, his battle is only with Lindsay. Dornenberg is 37.9 seconds behind these guys, and they're putting time on him every lap. So he doesn't have to pass Lindsay if he's going to pass him in the pit stop. So that being said, you can tell that Slavonic is actually feeling a little bit better about his car through the corners than Lindsay.
Yeah, as exciting it is to watch, it's really not that exciting. I don't think either one of these guys are showing us what they got. They're racing for a number, and we'll see how it plays out when we have about 5 minutes to race.
Take a look.
That said, maybe a pass? Nope. Okay, go ahead, Joe.
I was going to say, let's take a look at the GTE leaders, GTLM class. Williams and DeVries still relatively close together, actually. And am I not mistaken, has DeVries closed in since the pit stops?
Significantly, DeVries has closed the gap from about 3 seconds down to what was previously 1.4, but now is back up to 2 because of the gap behind them. We're going to put up a lap comparison here shortly. But DeVries, we know that he's a master at saving fuel, so he's going to try his best to save as much fuel as possible and do the same thing that Slavonic's trying to do on Paul Lindsay by passing him in the pit stop. So that's definitely the pit strategy that I think DeVries is trying to tackle here. He took as much fuel as he possibly could on that last pit stop. His pit stop was the longest of all of the GTE runners.
I think that's a really good point. I was just looking, you and I are doing the same thing, just looking at that. You didn't have to fill it up all the way if you were running in these cars right here. You could have filled up a little bit short and then take a little more later, and I think maybe Williams might have to do that.
Yeah, so that's going to be I think that's the play for Jason DeVries, and the fact that he's been gaining here on David Williams, now down to a second, I think is just part and parcel to taking that little bit extra fuel, and he's just trying to maximize that as much as possible as we get close to that final stop, trying to close the gap to Williams as much as he can so that when they come into the pits, they're nose to tail, and he can just pass him on fuel intake alone.
Seen DeVries scamper away with victory at the last stint a number of times in this series as well.
I'll leave Peterson real quick, car number 39. This is a battle for position, right? With Binkley here, as they're now right in the mix between this Lindsay and Slavonic battle.
Yeah, they are in the thick of it. Peterson holds the upper hand for now, but he gets held up significantly through Stavilo. So Binkley's going to be all over him. Are they going to be able to clear Lindsay? They're just going to eke by in time, but a little bit of an awkward line for Kevin Binkley denies him a chance at trying to overtake the Porsche.
And that's Ross Booth in that green and black BMW GTE as well, who's tucking behind them. So this has separated that battle for the lead in the GTDs and has brought together this battle for fourth position in the GTLMs quite significantly.
Boy, that is very close moments between classes. That was Shane Hunter having to dive to the inside and then nearly got into Ross Booth coming through the source. We've stepped away from them back to this battle here between Binkley and Peterson. They're going to get interrupted as well by Hunter.
Binkley definitely not close enough, and he's going to have to draft off of Shane Hunter to try and catch his way back up to Peterson. But I think everyone's thinking about that last pit stop, and it's coming up, and they're going to be trying to pull some shenanigans in the pit lane for sure to try and make their way past these challengers. Jason DeVries' gap to David A. Williams, by the way, under a second now to 0.8. He's definitely setting up for that pit stop himself.
This battle we're looking at, you talked about Booth. That's for position as well.
I'm taking a glance at Ulmer and trying to look at his lap times. I'm not seeing anything super drastic here because he's now 10 seconds back.
Yeah. Smith is in for a stop.
Oh, I did. Okay, I found the mistake that cost the time. It was quite a while ago, so I don't be able to get the replay on this. But Ulmer had a near spin through Puhan, had to catch the car. So that is why he is as far behind as he is.
So another one of those. That's really unfortunate for Ulmer.
That's two.
That seems to be his Achilles heel. Yeah, that's two that we've seen.
Right on board with Peterson.
Oh, David
now.
A. Williams into the pits.
Bit of an early call.
So yeah, watching this battle here for the third spot, this will soon be the battle for second as they inherit that spot from Williams. But these guys have yet to pit. Jason DeVries obviously is going to go around one more time. I don't think he was expecting David A. Williams to pit that early. This is before all the HPDs.
This is sooner than he needed to do. I'm sure there's fuel left in the tank here.
Oh, and Peterson's in. So that's going to free up Binkley, but all of their battling has meant that Ross Booth has closed on them. Billy Smith finally finds his stall after a long run down the lane. Only needs 24 minutes of fuel to finish this one out. Canchin also pits. He's well back down the order. We've lost O'Keefe and Major. I can confirm both drivers have retired.
Short stop for Smith, 16.7 seconds, so just enough to make it to the end. He's going to come out right behind this battle for fourth position that we see zipping by on our screen. Ross Booth on Kevin Binkley. Booth is definitely going to go for a pass here. No, he actually decides to back out. I thought he was setting up for one. He decides to back out of it, so he's, ooh, wow, really back out of it. He's trying to save fuel still.
I can't tell if we've got a glitch on the screen or if that's his paint scheme. No, okay, it does look like on our screens Booth is missing the nose.
Yeah, his clip is for sure gone. This is something we've noticed before. It's impressive that he's been able to go as fast as he has with that front clip gone. It does look like it blends in with his scheme really well, but no, that's actually his front nose completely gone.
Yeah, I was questioning myself because I thought maybe he just had some really clever camouflage paint or something, but yeah, maybe that is not actually gone on his car or something, because that is very strange to be able to keep the pace up to this degree and still continue to fight with someone like Binkley.
Guys, I want to quickly talk about, if we can, car number 913, Dominic Dornberg. He sits in third in the GTDs. Why do we care about him? Well, he's got about 30 seconds up on Eric Antilli. We think Antilli is good to go. We know Dornberg has to make another stop. I don't think he can get in and out in 30 seconds. I don't think Antilli has anything for Lindsay. That's about a minute difference.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the 913 is the target for Antilli at this point.
That would put him on the podium, though.
Right.
Absolutely. So this strategy is probably going to pay off as we take a look at the battle for the lead in that GTD class. Don't expect to see either of them in, and dutifully, they're both going to stay out. Probably go to what, about 10 minutes to go here?
Yeah, I would think they're going to run it till it's dry as a pancake bottle at or syrup bottle at a pancake social. Get your cliches right, Sue. But these guys will go a while. They'll come in together. They'll fill it up, and then they'll do allow for the last 10 minutes.
Soup. I've been riding on the boat with Lindsay for a couple laps. His tires look gone. He's having trouble turning in. He's having trouble rotating the car. He's having trouble getting off without spinning the rear tires. He looks like he's suffering out there. And in order to make this fuel strategy work, he can't take tires on his final pit stop either.
Oh, no. Well, if you remember right, last race, Slavonic got the win because he mistakenly forgot to change tires. So these guys know. They're going to run them till they're on the rims.
So Slavonic continues to follow behind, doing what he can to save fuel. That'll certainly give him an advantage in the pit stops. I can report that Ulmer is now in. Now, I'm not expecting him to be able to catch Billy Smith in this pit sequence, considering he was a whole 10 seconds behind before. Carbonneau continues on, so he will inherit the lead temporarily.
Ulmer will be able to gain a little bit of time, though, because he probably will be able to put a little bit less fuel into it, because the end of the race is a full 2 minutes earlier than it would have been before. But he's definitely not going to be able to catch Billy just on this pit stop. He'd have to catch him on pace. And similar things with Paul Lindsay. His tires, he's had two almost spins in that machine, so his tires are probably pretty spent at this point. Wow, look at that, Slavonic. That Audi looking really nice on the low fuel.
This is going to be a duh moment for veteran viewers of this broadcast, but for guys who don't understand, viewers who don't understand, the reason we're talking tires, you have to take the fuel, then you have to take the tires afterwards, so it costs you a ton of time. You can't do them simultaneously. That's why it's such a big issue.
Here's Ulmer, who's finally hit his stall. That car behind him, that is Mike Major, who we don't expect to return to the track. He's been taking repairs for over 16 minutes at this point. Smith is already by, even by the time Ulmer is past the cones, so easily done for Billy Smith. Question is, what's the gap?
Close enough to make Smith keep it honest here.
Yeah, another mistake could hand it back. I'm looking to see what it's going to settle into. It takes a bit because they're going to be different speeds up the straightaway. And it's appearing to be roughly 6.5 seconds. So actually, yeah, that is a big chunk of time that Ulmer took out of it. Nearly half of the gap between them.
Adam, take 2 Ulmer spins out of the equation, and he'd be comfortably in front.
That's exactly right. So, but those spins probably contributed to him being able to go that extra lap. So, you know, it's it all kind of comes out in the wash usually with these drivers. But if Ulmer was tucked in behind Billy Smith before he had that second spin, so he probably saved a little bit of fuel there too as Carbonneau comes in from the provisional lead.
Well, drivers can say if all the time, but what happens out on track is what decides the winner. So I think John Ulmer can only look at himself in the mirror when it comes to losing the win potentially on this one. It's not over, mind you. He could still have something happen that allows him to sneak one.
Paul Slavonic might be going for a pass on Paul Lindsay
Yeah,
here.
I don't think so. He's right on him. I think it's all about fuel saving. He could have had it if he wanted it, clearly. If fuel is sitting behind somebody and saving fuel means anything, we're going to see it from what Paul Slavonic does in the pits.
I think he's also trying to pressure Lindsay into a mistake because he sees how much Lindsay's struggling on that machine. I mean, you can see him go wide here. Paul Slavonic's going to dive to the outside here and actually make Lindsay go a little shallow into the corner, do the swap over. Oh, he slides it a little bit, though.
You know, Adam, you might be right. This whole thing about saving fuel might be kind of a missing the point here. I think if he got ahead of Lindsay, he might just be able to drive away from the guy.
Yeah, but no use taking a risk right now, especially if you definitely think you're going to pass him in pit lane. So, I mean, Slavonic definitely looks a lot more comfortable than Lindsay, and so he's probably just chilling in that machine.
I bet you he makes the pass on the pit-in lap.
That seems like a safe bet to me. He's right on board with Slavonic now. Going to complete another lap. They don't come in quite this time. The Texan still giving chase. But definitely, I agree with the other sentiment that I think he's trying to get into the head of Lindsay. I think he's showing his nose just to try and distract him. Try to see if he could shake him. Because if he can get that car to slip and spin, then that is an easy win. Because they are, as we pointed out before, Dornenberg 40 seconds behind. He just has to cruise from there on out.
Looking at the interval between DeVries and Williams in the GTLMs, it's almost a minute. I'm looking at 50. Am I looking at that right? Yeah, 59 seconds. 56 seconds. Boy, that seems like pretty comfortable for DeVries.
Yeah, but at the same time, they do a minute and 24 in the pit lane, so...
Okay.
It's going to be close for sure between those two.
You know, you're right. I can't get over how long it takes them to get around.
Know,
You're right.
It's hard to remember sometimes.
One of the strangest pit lanes in all of racing. So DeVries is actually, as we see another look there, and this time actually making the move down into Pouon. Paul Slavonic is actually going to go for it. He's had enough of saving that fuel. Now does he turn the afterburners on and leave Lindsay in the dust? Wow, that was decisive too.
It's beautiful stuff that makes me smile. Here comes David A. Williams, our GTE. Well, he was the leader when he came into the pits. He's now stuck in behind these guys.
Ulmer had another spin. Ulmer was around. This was a slow one in La Source. I wonder, did Ulmer take tires either of the times?
I doubt it.
Oh, 2 spins. That's in the bus stop. He had another one in La Source here if we stick with this.
All right, I'll answer it. No, he did not take tires.
Yeah. Granted, these tires are one of the latest models here on iRacing, and those, when they're cold, can be slippery. He's only 2 laps into the stint. But I'm with you. I think he's probably on old ones. And they are truly shot. Now, Luke Carbonneau has got to be licking his chops because he's probably seen that gap suddenly come down very quickly. And it's only 5.8 seconds.
Yeah, Carbonneau's definitely going to be looking for an opportunity here. And Carbonneau, we know how much of a hard charger he is throughout this entire race. So he's going to be trying to make his way up to Ulmer for sure. And I think, yeah, he's losing a little bit of time to Ulmer here, but he's going to be hoping that Ulmer makes another mistake, and then he'll be right on it.
So as we're watching this, I can report that Lindsay and Slavonic were close to swapping around again, but Mark Wilson interrupted them from the GTLM class, which makes me wonder, because Lindsay is not far behind. He is held on close to our new leader. I don't think Slavonic quite had the pace that we thought, or the slipstream is just so powerful that Lindsay's doing a good job keeping touch with him.
Slavonic had some issues too with Williams, who went through, kind of slowed him up. Williams had a hard time getting through traffic. And of course, Williams is racing Jason DeVries, even though they're not together. They're racing on opposite sides of the track. DeVries still needs to make that final stop.
Oh, we've got Kundinger in. So currently second place on the track, who should wind up third, I believe. Takes his Ferrari down the lane.
And DeVries did go around one more time, so we'll keep our eyes on that and report when he comes back in, as we see him getting passed by John Ulmer, second place in the HPDs.
Booth stays out, but Binkley is in. So apparently that that damage on the front of the BMW for Booth not only is giving him decent speed, but great mileage as well. So all the BMW engineers watching are going, why did we put that front on the car anyways?
So Kundinger hitting to his spot right now. Williams, who I think is going to jump him, is just going into La Source.
Yeah, Williams should easily get by Kundinger because he was behind him before the pit stops. In fact, yeah, Kundinger's not even to his stall, and
Right.
Williams is out of La Source now. So he's just waiting on DeVries and Booth ahead of him to pit for him to tell where this will all cycle out.
Williams should get Booth. The real question is how he fares with DeVries.
And here's a lap comparison between the two of them. Jason DeVries has been losing a little bit of time consistently to Williams, but he did gain because of when Williams got caught up behind Paul Slavonic, so that actually erased Williams' gains. So DeVries is probably still about where he would have been when Williams came into the pits that first time.
DeVries, Booth, and Wilson are the last, and I guess add Christopher Pies to that list. The last of them that we're waiting to pit in. DeVries goes around another time as we watch Williams on screen. Wow.
Tim McLeish and Mark Kudrowski into the pits.
And that means, I'm sorry, you got it. McLeish and Kudrowski comes in. That means Antilli is going to jump those as soon until he can go without another stop. And he does.
Yeah, Antilli is already by them. And Dornenberg about 33 seconds up the road.
And that's the gap that we need to keep our eyes on. Dornenberg will take a minute plus in the pit lane. So that means that if Antilli can make it to the end of the race, he's got Dornenberg by about a minute.
Ross Booth, who inherited second place in the GTLMs, has taken it down the lane as well. So Williams will be back up to second place now.
Adam, do you know how much 10 minutes of gas is? That's what DeVries has to come in for. He doesn't want 12 minutes of gas. He wants 9 minutes of gas, or just enough, whatever it is.
Well, considering the fact that David A. Williams only took 11 seconds on pit lane and is now 57 seconds behind DeVries on track. Oh man, it's going to be close. I think DeVries is going to come out behind Williams, but he might be able to push harder than Williams can. This is going to be very tight.
You don't want to take more than you need, but you want to take enough so that you can race with a clear conscience. This will be fun.
And this is another case, too, where it's two quite different cars. There's the BMW for Jason DeVries, who we see on screen right now, the starred black car, and Williams in the Ford, known to be pretty slippery in a straight line.
Now, Williams' last lap was a 2:15.9 to DeVries' 16.2. So it's about 0.3 between the two of them in favor of Williams. So if Williams can keep putting in those lap times, DeVries is going to have to make that all up in the pit lane and then also on track. Here comes DeVries to the final sector. Is he going to come in this time? No, he's going to go around one more time. Oh, man.
And he's run this to perfection in the past, so I'm honestly not doubting him at this point. I think he knows what he's doing in terms of how much fuel he has.
This is my favorite kind of racing, where the guys are trying to eke out as much pace, but as also as much fuel as they can on track. This is next level stuff.
For the battle for the lead in the GTDs, Lindsay has now fallen off of Slavonic. I think traffic may have affected this somewhat.
A little bit.
It's 2.2 seconds between them now. They're actually currently split by Carter Kundinger, a third place driver in the GTLMs. That's the Ferrari that you saw in the background there.
To be honest with you, I think traffic was Lindsay's friend. When things cleared out a bit, Slavonic was able to open it up a bit now. He's got to deal with Pendinger here. Whoa! That's a little closer than it needed to be.
Let's not do that.
Sometimes Dougie's cameras make it look very dramatic, which is good for us, but...
All right, Slavonic got to come in this time. Attaboy. Make me look smart.
He goes.
And so does Lindsay, so now we'll see how much fuel Slavonic saved.
Okay, if I'm Lindsay, my pit stop's going to be, my box is going to be right behind Slavonic. As soon as Slavonic leaves, I hit my button and I go. I don't care if I have enough fuel. It's the last race of the season. Don't let him get away from you, Paul.
Well, also Paul's won the championship, so what does it matter if he finishes last?
He won the championship. He's got a big gap back to Dornenberg, so there's a good chance that they'll be split by the leaders.
I think Paul will win.
Didn't you pick Slavonic at the start of the race?
If I didn't, it's Paul Lindsay, so I'm good either way.
Oh, goodness. What a turncoat. So as we watch them come down, let's see who's going to have the quicker stop. There you go. You're right. Lindsay can see him.
And Jason DeVries
play the strategy you said.
So all of the leaders now have come to the pit lane for the
there
last
he
time.
goes.
Hey, you called it, Soup.
He actually left before Slavonic did.
Oh, boy.
Lindsay was 8.6 seconds in his stall. Slavonic 9.0. So now it comes down to this. No more fuel games. It's who can finish ahead of who at the checkered flag. And they've got 6.5 minutes to decide it.
And they're racing on the rims.
All right, so Jason DeVries is in.
Oh, no. Lindsay just said he got a black flag.
Oh, no.
Oh, did he speed in pit lane? What happened?
Jason DeVries.
Maybe he crossed the pit exit.
Jason DeVries just hits his box. David A. Williams coming out, crossing the start-finish line right now. He's going to go. I think Jason's going to beat him out easily here. Jason's out. He just exits the pit lane right now. David just coming through Stevelo. I think Jason's made the pass in the pit lane.
Absolutely. And now it is going to be a little bit close because momentum is going to be in favor of the 01 car. Right in on board with DeVries.
I can't even see him.
There he is. Oh, wow. That was much bigger than I anticipated.
That being said, Williams has been making faster laps than DeVries, even with a heavily loaded car. So DeVries is going to have to turn up the wick a little bit to stay ahead of Williams on pace.
But with 5 minutes and a 5.5 second gap. So got about 2 or 3 laps here. I mean, he's going to have to make up big chunks in those few laps.
Dominic Dornberg pits from the lead of the GTDs.
So, oh, and he doesn't come in.
Oh, might as well.
Trying to think. Well, I mean, I was trying to think of how long you have to clear the black flag, but if he stays out and does not clear the black flag, then he'll be served a time penalty, I believe.
It's 3 laps you have to serve it, but I'm not sure they have that long left. It's under 5 minutes to go in the session, so Lindsay would have to come in probably next time in order to try and clear that black flag.
Let's pick up car 35, Eric and Tilly going down into La Source right now. Why do we care?
Breeze by Dominic. Dominic's not even
to his box. Yep. Bring it home, Eric.
And also, Eric has been gapping Chris Sherburne behind him by a significant amount as well. So he's actually beating Sherburne on pace and fuel strategy.
And a black flag for Lindsay. That's a second position for Tilly.
Because Tilly's only 20 seconds behind, I believe.
Yep.
That's totally oh my goodness.
One mistake from Slavonic, and he steals it.
This has just turned upside down, and we expect nothing less from the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge. We came into this one wondering what the championship situations will hold, and those went away quickly, and instead it's become a thriller on track itself just for this singular race. So as we watch Tilly, that's him on screen in the orange and white machine. That's Kanchan, who's going to lap him in the prototype, easily able to get by.
And Lindsay's falling away from Slavonic right now, and I think that's also on pace. So Slavonic showing his stuff. Lindsay, even with the black flag, I mean, even without the black flag, I'm not sure he would have been able to catch Slavonic on pace.
Yeah, it seems like it might have been all over. Let's see if Lindsay comes in this time, though. Is that Mert gonna duck away?
Does anyone know what the penalty is for what the second penalty is for?
I'd have to do some digging. Not entirely sure. Here he goes.
Here he comes.
He's going to serve it. Oh my God, this is going to be painful. Until he was easily by him with only a 20-second gap. Even if you just ran through pit lane, he would have caught him. So where is Billy Smith? I believe he's going to get the white flag at the line. There's our leader overall. 21 seconds over John Ulmer right now. This has just been an incredible second half of the season for Billy Smith. Shades of drivers like Sebastian Vettel in his prime. Lewis Hamilton, known to come on strong at the end. And Smith has just been dominating with win after win, with a mediocre start to the season. White flag waves for Billy Smith. Tilly already past Lindsay. Dornenberg, and Lindsay's not even going to be on the podium here.
Oh my goodness. I just went and took a look at the replay of Lindsay and Slavonic exiting pit lane as John Ulmer comes around to take the white flag. And Lindsay followed Slavonic almost in his tire tracks, and Lindsay is the only one who got the penalty. So just some unfortunate happenings there for Lindsay as he followed Slavonic. It seemed like both drivers put the left side tires over that white line on exit, but Lindsay was the one who ended up with the penalty.
Again, we don't know for sure that it was pit exit there. Could have been the speeding in pit lane.
He came out pretty fast. He was, remember, he had Slavonic in his sights.
This is a 30-second stop. Lindsay's down in 7th. He's dead last of the field now. From second place, a sure podium at the very least, to unfortunately going to peter home. It's, I think, going to be a bit of a bittersweet finish on this one.
7th position. I think that's what we said he had to finish. If Kevin Santana could have stayed in the race and finished ahead of him, that would have been enough.
Kind of pointless now.
Yeah.
And I believe that Jason DeVries is gonna go around one more time. I think Billy Smith is gonna catch David A. Williams, so Jason's just gonna have a lap to think about things.
Unfortunately. So, Billy Smith, as he has just a couple more corners to go, is coming across some traffic. David Williams is going to be overtaken, so he won't be able to fight, or will he? That's a lift there. Smith going to let him go. He sees the battle. He's going to let him try and chase him down. Very gentlemanly move from the 901. He had plenty of gap here. Oh, this will give us a spicy one at the end for those two. But Billy Smith not only has the championship in his hands, but takes a win here in the final round of the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge. Next one will be Slavonic, but he's got a ways to go as well. Tilly 20 seconds behind him. It's basically a victory lap, back-to-back for the 528.
Sherburne's out of fuel in the 4th position in the GTDs.
Sherburne pitted a lap earlier than in Tilly.
But he was able to finish.
Right. Oh, I got it. Yeah. Tilly's work is not done. He's still got to get this thing home.
Yeah, I think Dornenberg's on the same lap. Let me check here. No, he is not, because he got overtaken. It was Williams was the last one through. I'm pretty certain. So I think he has that second place wrapped up. odd race that we had here for the finale. We've seen some wild, wild finishes. This time, though, it was a thinker's game about who can come away with this one. In this case, guys like Paul Slavonic out-strategize those around them. Jason DeVries, with no shock to anybody who's been watching the Autobahn series, did so as well over David Williams. Down through Blanchimont for the last time. It took a while for Paul Slavonic to come into his own. It took until the end of the season, and maybe it was just a little bit too late for him. But I'm sure he'll be happy to take win number 2 here at Spa-Francorchamps. Paul Slavonic, your victor in Belgium.
Jason DeVries about to approach the last chicanes. He's had a really good race himself, and David A. Williams trying to catch him on pace. He was 0.3 faster last lap, but he's not going to get there. 4.2 seconds back. Sure,
Jason is probably yelling at Billy, saying, "How come you couldn't just pass him? Let me take this one home." Has to hold it for one more lap. And that's what he's done. Out of the bus stop chicane, Jason DeVries with a championship and a victory. Let's head to break, though, here on the Global SimRacing Channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. Stick around, because on screen you'll see all the upcoming races here on GSRC.
Welcome back to the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge here at Spa for the final round. Billy Smith was able to come home with the win today and able to really punch that final ticket for his championship win in the HPDs. John Ulmer coming home in second after a couple of almost spins, put him a good 20 seconds behind. Luke Carbonneau tried to catch up to the back of John Ulmer, almost pulled it off in the final lap, but comes home about 2 seconds short. Comes home with the final podium position. Shane Hunter comes home in 4th position with Robert Canchin in 5th. They battled it out on the last couple laps as well, and they're able to get those positions. Jason DeVries is able to come home in the 1st position in the GTE class and is able to secure the championship for himself by doing so as well. David A. Williams fought him well for most of the race, but just was not able to get the field down and had to come home 4 seconds behind. Carter Kundinger comes home in the 3rd spot in the GTEs, with Kevin Binkley battling him most of the race, coming home in 4th position. Leif Peterson finishes in 5th, with Mark Wilson in 6th, and Christopher Pies in 7th spot.
Paul Slavonic makes it 2 in a row at the end of the season. Eric, hello, baby, and Tilly gets the 2nd position as he one-stops it. Dominic Dornberg comes home with the final podium position. Chris Sherburne and Tim McLeish go 4th and 5th. Mark Krodowski after them. Paul Lindsay had his issues in pit lane with a long penalty. Nevertheless, it's still enough for him to win the GTD championship. Adam?
Yeah, and we do want to mention our team's winner as well. Automobile No Disassembly will take the team's win, as Jason DeVries was able to secure that for them. Mike Major and Ross Booth doing good jobs as well for them, as you see the rest of the race results scrolling on your screen. But we have Billy Smith, our winner in the HPDs, up there. Billy, you and John were trading places for most of this race. What do you think it was that got you the win today?
Knowing John, I think I kind of saved the tires a little bit better than he did. We seem to be able to have, with this new tire model, just neck and neck pace and short run. But I seem to be able to keep the tires from falling off just a little bit when we stretch it out on longer runs there. So I think that's probably where I was able to beat him.
Yeah, fantastic driving from both of you, and you really did save those tires. We could see the difference for both of you. How tough was it out there with the traffic today? Everyone seemed pretty well behaved, and we had quite a bit fewer cars on track than we're accustomed to.
Right. The fewer cars help. The track is really long lap time, so that helps as well. For the most part, I mean, it seemed like you would go laps without catching anyone in a bad spot. You would lose literally no time at all, and then there was laps where there's no way you could avoid losing 2 or 3 seconds. So it's just part of it. Probably about half of the track is you can pass other class cars without losing any time, and then other sections you just have to follow. So.
And speaking of the track, how was the weather out there for you guys today? It seemed like it was a little bit variable. Most people were struggling with tires. And how did that affect the fuel strategy as well? Were you going all out, or were you saving?
There was no need to save with the fuel. We could easily make it on 2 stops, and there was not even close to trying to make it on 1. So fuel wasn't really an issue. I think there were some strategies with some people taking a little bit more their first stop and less and whatever. And obviously heavier cars a little bit slower. So there's a little bit of strategy there. You guys probably saw plus or minus a lap or two. The tires, it did get a little bit slicker. I think the temperature started to drop a little bit at the end, but it was definitely pretty sketchy towards the end of the race there.
All right, Billy. Well, thanks for talking to us, and congrats on your win today, and congrats on your championship as well.
Thanks, guys. Stay safe, and look forward to talking to you guys in season 10.
That was Billy Smith, our winner today in the HPDs, and the winner of the championship in the HPDs as well. And Soup has caught up with Paul Slavonic, who won the GTDs today.
Paul, congratulations, 2 in a row. Was the car as tough to drive as it looked from us from the press box there at the end of the race?
Sorry about that. There you go. It was. I mean, it was especially in the later part of the race. It was pretty crazy. Tires were getting greasy, but the good thing is that this Audi, I don't know what it is, but the cooler it gets, the better this thing drives, and I was able to kind of save the tires a little bit. It was still super squirrely, especially on the last section of the track. But that was really the determining factor, is just keeping it underneath me and not trying to throw it away too soon or anything.
So what was the strategy about following or leading? It looked like neither one of you guys were really all that excited to be out in front.
Yeah, I mean, a track like this, I got pole, and it's always cool to get pole, but at the same time, you're either going to lose it on the first lap, or there's going to just be a train of cars behind you saving fuel. So, we raced very courteously, which I figured Paul would do with a championship on the line and everything. But when he started showing his nose and then he made a move, I just let him go by. I'm not going to fight him and risk losing time. And then I just kind of tried to keep up with him throughout his, I believe that was his second stint, and just try to save fuel. But he got me on the pit stop. He got me by a second coming out of the pits the first time, just from saving fuel. So I said, I'm going to try that too and see how it works. Didn't exactly work, but still did my best.
Do you know what happened to him?
He said he got a black flag. I'm not sure what for, but he told me after the second stop he got a black flag for something.
That's too bad. It would have been a fun fight between you guys, fighting with cars that were really fun to watch you work them. Congratulations, 2 in a row, man.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you guys doing the broadcast, and thanks to Autobahn for hosting this awesome season.
All right, hopefully we see you for season 10.
Absolutely.
Paul Slavonic, winner in GTDs.
And next up, we have Deep Freeze DeVries. Jason DeVries joining us, our winner in the GTLMs to the GTE class, and also our championship winner. Jason, looks like you were definitely playing a field game today with David Williams. Talk us through your win.
I just came in knowing that I didn't have to win the race and just finish fifth or better to win the championship, and that was the main focus. So I was pretty conservative with the strategy. The one stop was actually the optimal strategy, but I didn't want to go that slow in order to make it work. I figured that add a little bit too much risk to the equation. So I just went out. I was doing 18 laps a stint, and evidently David was on a little bit of a different strategy. I don't know if he tried splitting the race in thirds or what, but it seemed like he was going in a little bit earlier than what the fuel window dictated. And I just got some good laps in between the pit cycles, and traffic worked out in my favor, and that's how I got the leapfrog.
Yeah, and also talking about the track, it looked like the temperatures were a little bit of a struggle for people. How were your tires by the end of the race?
The tire wear is actually a lot better with the patch. My problem was I missed the setup a little bit, so I was pretty much tight where I needed a turn, and then I couldn't get the power down. So it basically felt like the center of gravity was too high in the car, and I was sliding over the place. So David was definitely the class of the field. I just stayed close enough to give myself a chance, and it worked out in my favor. But in terms of the track itself, it felt fine. I just felt like I missed the setup a bit.
Well, congrats on the win, Jason. Is there anyone else you want to thank for your win in your championship?
Yeah, we also won the team championship too. So I want to thank the guys on the team, Mike Major, Kevin Santana, Ross Booth, Kevin O'Keefe, and Mike Young pitched in at various times through the season. We had to shuffle a bunch of drivers around throughout the year just to make sure we had guys in each class, and everyone showed really good flexibility. They adapted the cars, and everything just seemed to work out in our favor. The admins that run the show, Jason Gerard, John Ulmer, Billy Smith, Paul Lindsay. It's a lot of work to put one of these things on behind the scenes, and I appreciate the time that everyone put into it. The competition committee for reviewing all of our mishaps and handing down law and order on the field. Thank you guys for your efforts this season. And the league itself, we averaged just about 42 drivers a race. This equaled our best ever season. We matched last season to the driver. So just a phenomenal turnout with everything going on in the world. It was really cool to have some packed races, some good competition, and I'd like to think that we put on some pretty good broadcasts and gave everyone an enjoyable place to race. So just thank you all for everything you've done to make this league what it is, and we'll see what next season entails.
All right, that was Jason DeVries, our winner and championship winner in the GTLM class. And Soup is caught up with a short interview. He's going to talk to Paul Lindsay, our championship winner in the GTDs.
Here we got Paul Lindsay. Paul, let's start with talking championship. Kevin Santana had issues early. That kind of made it easy for you.
Hey, Soup. Yep. Yeah, that was too bad for Kevin. Tough for him. We lost Eau Rouge.
All
But
right,
happy to get it.
All right, let's go to the pit stop. What happened?
I got a black flag when I was pitting behind Paul. I was just too much on the edge. I wanted that last bit. I thought I could make a pass on him, but I didn't even make it out of the pits without.
Yeah, I could. It was too bad. It was the car looked ugly at the very end. It was going to be quite a battle with you guys really wrestling those things on Old River.
Oh, yeah, it was so old. I knew Paul was. I kind of figured Paul was going to do that because he won with it last round. So I thought, okay, I can match that. I'm going to give that a try. Man, was that rough.
I'm going to get you out of here on this one. There was a GSRC commentator going down into the forums causing trouble, talking about GTD champions having to move out of that class once they win the championship. Next season, you back in GTDs, or are you going to try to take your championship to a higher class?
Yeah, no, I'm going to go to GT. So this might be my last interview. So I appreciate the time you give me.
We'll catch you, man. Congratulations. Good job on the championship. See you next year.
Thanks. See you next year.
All right. Paul Lindsay, our GTD champ. Adam?
Yeah. All right, yep, and that's going to close us out for this season, actually. We want to give a big, big thank you to John Ulmer and his team. We also want to give a thank you to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts that are going to be listed here on your screen. And an additional thank you to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. thank you to the team today, Joe, Bill, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including our upcoming races, you can find those at globalsimracingchannel.com, or you can check out our social media, which is all listed down in the description. If you want to support the channel, go check out our merchandise store at gsrc.storenvy.com. The link is also in the description below. We also want to give you an update for our next race, which is actually happening in about 5 minutes here, so do not miss that. That is going to be the Porsche Owners Club at Lime Rock. That's going to be an awesome race, and we really also encourage you to check out the other races that we have for series that are listed on your screen. So check those out and mark them down in your calendar. And I hope you've enjoyed joining us tonight as much as we've enjoyed bringing this race to you. We hope to see you back on our channel soon, but until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.